Hey everyone, welcome back to the Marketing Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Jake Leston, and we're joined today by a terrific Spartan marketer, Rick Krugh. Hey Rick, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Jake?
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. And as we do at the beginning of each one of our podcasts, we ask our guests to do a little intro. Who are you, Rick, and what are you all about?
Yeah, so my name is Rick Krugh. I am a senior managing director at Reddit. That simply means that I oversee a large sales force at the company. So it's about 50 people, directors, managers, and then sellers and account managers, specifically focused on several different verticals: media and entertainment, automotive, and restaurants and delivery.
Terrific. And Rick, before you joined Reddit, give us a little bit of your history dating back to Michigan State. When you graduated, where'd you go? And then what ultimately led you to Reddit?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had a pretty interesting career trajectory. So when I was at Michigan State, I went to the placement office, like most of the students do, figuring out all the different companies come to interview, et cetera. And I saw one company called Entertainment Publications. And I honestly thought it was Entertainment Weekly, the magazine. So I was super excited to go out and talk about, putting ads in their magazine and calling on, entertainment like clients and things of that nature. And when I got into the interview room, it ended up being the entertainment coupon books. The guy started throwing these coupon books down on the table, and I saw those and I'm like, yeah, I don't really see myself working for a coupon company, but I'm going to take this interview serious. It's good experience nonetheless. So ironically enough, I ended up getting a second interview. And so I thought, and again, great opportunity to go and kind of have that second round. What's that like? Who are the people I'm going to meet with? What are the questions that are going to be asked of me? And so I intended on going. Well, funny enough, I got a phone call at 8 a.m. I'll never forget, on a Thursday morning. And it was the director of human resources at the company. And she said, Rick, you were scheduled for a second interviews today. Where are you? And I said, those were today. And she said, yeah, we sent you an overnight package. Did you get it? And as I look over at my desk and I see the package sitting there, I thought quickly on my feet and I said, I never got that package. I live with a bunch of guys. Things go missing all the time. So she said, let me figure it out for you. And we'd still like to have you come back. So one thing led to another. And I got a second interview there. And as I was sitting in the lobby, I'm sitting with people from like Florida State and Notre Dame and really great schools from across the country, which made me really think to myself, maybe I should really take this serious. And so I went into all those interviews incredibly serious. And good thing I did, I ended up getting an amazing job offer at the end of that process, one of the top 5 offers at the business school. And what was great about this, it really gave me an opportunity to learn all the different facets of that company and then pick 5 cities I'd be willing to move to anywhere in the country. So I didn't get any of my 5 that I was chosen. Unfortunately, they came to me and said, or I should say, fortunately, came to me and said, what do you think about Orange County, California? Started rattling off a bunch of beach cities. And from a guy that lived in Michigan his whole life, I thought this is a great opportunity right out of school. So I went there and I was put in a sales management training program. So they taught you all different facets of the company. And then you were a salesperson in one of their divisions. I was in their merchant division, so I was calling on restaurants and sporting events and things like that in the local market. Well, the interesting thing, several years down the line, Microsoft started looking at that sales organization as they were starting to launch an online localized website called sidewalk.com. They ended up doing a deal with our company to where we agreed to partner with them and launch these city sites all across the US. Luckily, I was one of the people chosen to run one of the cities. It was actually in Chicago, Illinois. And so I said, this is a great opportunity for me to kind of change up what I'm doing with selling coupons to actually now going to sell digital media in partnership with Microsoft. So that was a real easy decision. I made that move to Chicago, which was fantastic. It's a really good lesson that I like to tell people as they're looking for jobs and things of that nature. Be open to relocation. That is a huge way to move up quickly in a company and also to get a first job. So just be open to that relocation. So moved to Chicago, which was fantastic. Had an opportunity to manage a team there selling digital media. We had a ton of success. But about a year later, Microsoft said, you know what, we're getting out of this business. This isn't something that is taken off like we thought. The world's not ready for localized websites at this point. So they decided that they wanted to get out of it, but they were able, as part of the breakup between the two companies, they were able to interview 50 people of their choosing and hire any of of us that they wanted. I was one of the 15 people that they hired at Microsoft directly. So that shot me into the digital world 100%, working for a tech company. So I could have easily have looked at this coupon company that I initially interviewed with at Michigan State and said, I'm not interested in it. That led me to the digital marketplace that I'm currently working in today. So did that. They got out of the business. I started looking around at that point, working at MSN because I knew there were other opportunities. That landed me in a couple different startup organizations. That really allowed me to see what I really enjoy doing within the industry. I like being part of these companies that are growing, that are developing, that you have a hand in actually the outcomes of decisions that are being made. It's really an amazing opportunity. It's also very difficult because I've had many of them fail. All the way till I got a call from a recruiter from a company called Google. And I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I know the search engine, and it was very, very early on. So I thought, I don't understand where the advertising's coming from. At that point, there were a couple like colored listings at the very top. And I thought, well, I don't know where the ads are. So we had some great conversations. They explained to me those were the ads, which kind of perplexed me. But I went to Mountain View to meet with the company. And that's what really changed my mind about working for another digital media company. I was ready to completely get out of that industry. And so when I got there and I saw just this incredible intelligence, this incredible passion, this belief in what they were doing, how they were changing the world, and I could easily see that I wanted to be a part of it. And so that job was really phenomenal. I worked there for 7 years. It allowed me to take on more and more responsibility, all the way to becoming a director over media and entertainment specifically. And then after about 7 years of doing that, I said, you know what, I'm ready for a break. I'm ready to do something else. Took off a little bit of time just to spend with my family. And that ultimately led me to Adobe, that I sold software for about a year, again, learning different facets of the industry, but now on the software side of things from a tech standpoint. And then about, 18 months after that, I got a phone call from the CRO of Pinterest that was interested in chatting about an opportunity. It was hard for me to say no. I knew him from my time at Google. We had some great conversations. It made sense for me to come on board and again, get back into media, building something, being part of something that was special, which I did that for about a year. And then my father had some terminal illness with Alzheimer's. And so that made me pivot a little bit, spend a little bit more time personally. That ultimately led me to my current gig at Reddit. So that's what I'm doing today.
Fantastic. From coupons to Google to Pinterest to Adobe to Reddit. Wow, that's quite a background, Rick. But I think what's interesting, and perhaps our listeners would be curious to know a little more about. Your career really started out in sales and it's evolved. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about just that practice and the art and the science of sales and what you've observed in that functional role and how that's evolved over the years, and maybe help the students out there understand what a career in sales actually looks like in today's day and age?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jake. And it's so funny that you said art and science. I say that to my teams all the time. Sales is truly a combination of both, right? The science side says that if you pick up the phone, you call enough people, you'll get enough folks on the phone to talk to. Of those people, a certain percentage will be interested in what you're saying. And of those people, you'll close a certain amount of business. That's just the pure science. The art is, how good are you at when you get somebody on the phone to tell your story, to tell them why your product is good for their business at the end of the day, right? And how good are you to finally close that to actually bring in revenue for your organization? So I think that's the interesting thing about sales, is that's the foundation, and that's never changed. Throughout my entire career, that still is the nucleus of what sales is all about from an art and science standpoint. But it's definitely really evolved over time. I think customers today really expect a lot more out of salespeople, right? They expect you to really be that consultant. And I tell people all the time, like, you need to be able to go into a customer with commercial insights that are going to teach them something, right? They have so many salespeople that go in and just show up and throw up, what I like to say, right? They go through like a 40-slide deck, PowerPoint deck. I'm sure, Jake, you've seen that millions of times, and grimace as they come into your office to pitch you. And that's not the best salesperson today. The best salesperson is someone that can come in with commercial insights and actually teach that customer, whether it be something about the industry, something they don't know that can benefit them moving forward. And if you're a really great salesperson, you become a trusted consultant for that business. People, literally, I've had customers pick up the phone and say, hey, Rick, I had this issue going on. I had this customer or this vendor come in. What do you think about that? That is the ultimate, show of appreciation, is when they're picking up the phone and asking you questions. So I think that's been a big evolution over time.
Well, and Rick, what you say is spot on. I think, this idea of serving your client and helping them or be an active participant in solving their problems is really akin to a lot of these group projects that students may be working on, in the classroom. And so as you're coaching and working with members on your team, on your account teams and your sales teams, what are some of the common themes that you're coaching about how to make them a more productive consultant to their client, or a better problem solver on behalf of their client?
Jake, it's so often that a company shows you how to present their products, right? Well, the funny thing is, if you look at any of those decks that companies develop, it is all about the company for the first 20 slides, right? Where it should be flipped on its head. I always tell my teams, it's all about the customer. They don't give a damn about you at the end of the day. Sure, they care about how our products can help them solve a certain problem that they're having, or issue they're going through. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you're talking all about the customer. What are the challenges? Making sure that they understand you can empathize and truly get the challenge that they're going through. So that way, as you start to talk further, it almost leads them to your solution versus being so solution forward and only talking about your own company.
That's so spot on. And it comes back full circle to what we learn as marketers is it begins and ends with the customer, right? And that's just so important to everything we do, no matter the functional area that you are in serving your customer, your client, et cetera. And Rick, I know you've had the chance to get into classrooms and meet a lot of students. But what advice would you give to a student, that's maybe, on the cusp of graduating, or just even starting their exploration about, what they want to do next? What career advice do you have for landing that first job or that first gig out of college?
It's so interesting. Now that I've been on the other side, I remember as a student at Michigan State going into these interviews and thinking everybody is at an equal playing field, right? We're all going in there just as talented as each other. And oh my gosh, it's going to be so hard to choose me over the other people that they're talking to, whether it be at Michigan State or when you get to the second and third interviews at other schools as well. Well, I can tell you, it's your preparation. It's how you really get yourself ready for those interviews that allow you to stand it out, right? Making sure that you come to those interviews with, multiple questions that you plan to ask them, doing that homework. I can tell you, if I interview anybody and they don't have a question for me at the end, they are automatically out of the process instantaneously. So it just shows that you're doing your homework by asking those right questions, and having that preparation. Also prepare like questions they might ask you. It may not be the exact question, but it's going to give you at least some thoughts and ideas in your head that allow you to come up with answers as they're starting to ask you the interview questions during the session. So I think that's an important concept as well. Many people don't do that, and then they freeze up if they get a challenging question. Also, don't be afraid to take a minute and think about something. Don't feel like you have to just vomit out an answer instantaneously. Say, do you mind if I take a second and just think about that? Then you get a couple minutes just to really come up with a good, thoughtful answer that's going to help you stand out, and have energy. I think that's the other thing. Nobody wants to talk to somebody that's low energy, that doesn't have a personality. Let your personality come out. Even if you're a quieter person, push yourself. Do it in a mirror. Answer questions in a mirror so you can see how you're coming across. And if you do those things, you will stand out amongst the people you're interviewing against.
Speaking of being yourself and standing out, I think that's a perfect segue for the platform of Reddit, right? I mean, I think it's evolved so much. But give us and our listeners a little sense of, you've been involved in, Reddit for some time, but you had your finger on the pulse of entertainment and this evolution that's happening in the tech space. What's been the most surprising to you, and again, where do you think all of this is going for marketers today?
Yeah, it's super exciting. So when I was at Google, Jake, in the very early days, we used to say that the foundation of search is the wisdom of crowds, right? Well, Reddit really is that next evolution of the wisdom of crowds. People are not getting through traditional search every answer that they're looking for today. And so many people are starting to append their Google searches with Reddit to get to that wisdom of crowds, those answers that consumers are giving each other every single day. The stat that recently came out, every second, two questions get asked on Reddit and an average response of 19 responses each. That's pretty amazing. And so oftentimes when people don't use Reddit, I'm trying to get them to think of questions they might have, things that they're thinking about, and then going in and finding a subreddit that would be relevant to that and then asking that question. I'll give you an example from my wife who didn't use Reddit. We had a money tree that was dying in our bedroom, and she's like, I can't figure it out. It was thriving. And like now this thing is dropping leaves left and right and turning yellow. Like, what is wrong with it? I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity to test Reddit. Like if you just Google searched it, you're never going to find an answer to that question. So she went to the plant clinic subreddit, took a picture, said, what's happening with my money tree? The second answer she got within 5 minutes was exactly the problem. So oftentimes when these trees are sold, they braid the roots all the way up and then they put a bow on it right at the top to hold that braid together. Well, as the tree grows, it starts to choke the tree and cut it off. So you just simply cut that little bow off and suddenly the tree starts thriving again. And that's exactly what happened. And now my wife asks Reddit questions every single day.
That's fantastic. It's technology has certainly has interwoven its way into our life to help us in surprising ways that maybe we never quite knew how it was going to. And again, you've had the chance to see a variety of companies evolve here in the tech space. For a student or somebody who's maybe interested in getting into sales and marketing, for a technology based company, or maybe on the West Coast, what sort of advice would you offer, students or any of our listeners who are maybe interested, in getting into that field?
That's a really good question. I think there's a couple of things. I think first and foremost, as a student, looking at internships that are available, right? And not just the ones that get advertised at Michigan State, but going a little bit further and going to Google's website or Reddit's website or anybody, Microsoft, et cetera, and seeing the internships that they offer and putting your name in and interviewing for those. I think that's a really great way to get your foot in the door. We have somebody that was from NYU at New York University and has done an amazing job in her internship. We made her a job offer upon the completion of that. And now she's an account manager and a rock star on my team today, which has been absolutely amazing. Another way in is through ad agencies. I think ad agencies are such a great place to cut your teeth and learn so much across every tech platform. How do they work? What are the benefits? What are the challenges? So you can get a good sense and also build relationships with people at those companies along the way. We hire people from ad agencies all the time. So I think that's another route in as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think, I spent some time in an ad agency, earlier in my career as well. And you really do get this breadth of experience, working with clients and platforms. And I do think that is a really nice, launching pad for a lot of students these days. Well, we're nearing the end of our time together, and if we can, we're going to move into the lightning round, if that's okay with you, Rick.
Oh, let's go.
All righty, here we go. So, where did you live on campus when you were at State?
So on campus, I lived on 4 East in McDonald Hall.
Okay, McDonald Hall. That's a popular place. Favorite East Lansing restaurant?
Favorite East Lansing restaurant? I think I really like Barrio now. That's probably my current first favorite restaurant. Back when I was at school, it would be Bilbo's, which unfortunately is no longer in existence.
Fantastic. And brand that you admire the most?
I would have to give Google the nudge there. I think Google's done such a good job of building their brand and making sure that it stands for something. And at the same time, not letting it go down evil paths, if you will. There was always the mantra at Google, do no evil. And I've always been impressed with how they've been able to protect that brand and make it stand for something.
Fantastic. And the last question is where do you think marketing is going over the next 10 years?
I think artificial intelligence is going to have such a big hand in that. You already see it today. Like we use artificial intelligence to help write ad copy, but you can see how that's going to evolve even into further aspects of things. That's just going to make marketing that much more powerful and that much more in touch with every single individual.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Rick, for spending time with us today. And we'll end the way we always do. Go green.
Go white.
All right. Thanks so much, Rick. Have a good one.
Cheers.